Hey YouTube, I'm doing outstanding, and I'm here with Nathan Camperser.
Hey, I'm also doing outstanding.
Yeah, he's the Silph Radio podcast host that you guys might remember from way back when my channel began. And I just did a video with him, or recorded it with him, or a podcast with him. It won't be out for some time, but when it does, it'll be cool. Um, he does have some other stuff coming out. You said there's a trilogy on Mewtwo coming out, right?
Yeah, that's going to be the next few episodes are all about, well, we're doing one on Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution, we're doing one on Mewtwo Returns, and then we're doing one on a really terrible Pokemon fan fiction about Mewtwo.
I'm excited. I can't wait for that.
Thanks.
So today we're not going to be talking that much about Pokemon. Now, I do have a note on that I'll bring up later. Uh,
Ooh, okay.
it is related to Jurassic Park, but that is what we'll be talking about. It's Jurassic Park. We're going to be talking about the books, the movies, that kind of thing. So I think the main thing to start off with would be Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park, mostly because it's the one that people know.
Right.
Um, Phenomenal movie, like absolutely stunning. I I,
I
I
I would
rewatched
make, go ahead, go ahead.
I
Go ahead,
rewatched
please.
it recently, and it's like the graphics still hold up because they were like physical models, and it just looks so damn good.
Right, and even, there is a lot of CG in the movie, but Steven Spielberg is just such a phenomenal director
Yeah,
that he knows how to trick you into
yeah,
thinking good. It's not just the quality of like the technology because this was made in 1993.
yeah,
And look at Jurassic World. There's shots in Jurassic Park that look better than shots in Jurassic World, and the
yeah,
reason isn't because the technology was better. Obviously, it wasn't, but because Steven Spielberg knows how to construct a scene, and he doesn't have like you when you linger on the dinosaur for like 15 seconds in broad daylight, completely unobscured by any
yeah,
type of foliage or rain, like it's really easy to tell it's CG.
yeah,
But when he's like, quick cut, show you the animatronic, and then cut to the CGI while it's raining at night quickly, and then cut back to the animatronic, it makes you feel like the whole thing was just one
yeah,
animal that you're looking at.
yeah. Like unless you're nitpicking and looking for every fine detail, you're never even gonna notice when watching it. Whereas like with the newer movies, it's like, yeah, no, I don't know about that one. Mm,
I
yeah,
even the scene with the T-Rex, the car attack, like
mm.
fuck every time I watch it, like I know so much about this movie and I know like every centimeter of behind the scenes information there is to know. I've watched everything and seen everything there is to see about the construction and making of that scene, and yet every time I watch it, I feel like I'm watching an actual like animal attack. Like I
I
feel
know.
like it is a real live animal that they're interacting with.
I love Steven Spielberg's directing. Honestly, it's not just Jurassic Park. Like almost every project he does is like just spot on. Because he did oh god that Ready Player One, didn't he? The movie for
He
it,
did. Well, wait. He produced it. He didn't
produced
direct.
it, right?
Yes, I haven't
Um,
seen that
well, let me just say the movie is significantly better than the book. The book was terrible.
yet. I've heard.
They're not even similar at all, except for the fact that they're VR. Like, there's a
Okay.
couple names that are the same, but that's about it. Whereas, like, with Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park to the Jurassic Park movie, they're almost one for one, I would say. There's a few details that are different, of course, but um, it's not so significantly different that it's kind of like reading The Martian versus watching The Martian. You feel like you're listening to the same story. It's
It
just
is. It's definitely the same story. There are a lot of differences.
yeah,
I think that the movie is, for the most part, an improvement
yeah,
on the book. I think, honestly, like I'll make an impartial argument that Jurassic Park is the greatest film of all time. I really think it is like a separate, like separating my personal feelings on the matter and just
mm,
trying to look at it analytically. Uh, I really think Steven Spielberg like condensed that story down to its elements and improved the plotting,
yeah,
made it more accessible, just like improved it in every conceivable way. But that said, there is an experience to reading the book that you don't get from the
yeah,
movie. So like there's something about the experience of reading the book that could still
Yeah.
be in its own right. And I think a lot of people mistake that for the book being better sometimes. I've gotten in arguments in the fan base before where they're like, oh, the book's better if they had just made the movie exactly like the book.
Then
No,
it'd be
you
like
don't understand.
8 hours long.
Yeah. And
It's
the
like,
plotting was terrible, and you would have came out of it going like, yeah, that movie was okay. But because
Yeah.
you actually watched an incredibly phenomenal, like well plotted movie and then came out of it and then went back and read the book, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Now, I will say, as far as like The Martian goes, the book is so much better just because it has it has more stories to it. Because if you look at the movie, it's kind of like an anthology of what's going on with Mark Watney on Mars. So adding a few more stories to the anthology makes it better. Whereas like with Jurassic Park, it's not quite the same. It's more like you're telling the same story with more details throughout, but there's no new adventures really compared to the movie.
And the ones that there are feel like they feel forced and they throw off the plotting of the book. Like,
Yeah, I would say.
Jungle River.
Do you know?
Oh yeah, the river sequence, the after the movie after the movie, like at the end of the book, there's this whole sequence where they have to go around and look for Easter eggs, eggs, or they have to look for eggs, but it feels like an Easter egg hunt in a video game, and it's like, this is so tacked on and unnecessary.
Yeah. You know, I do you know if there is a what are they called? So with the Star Wars movies, they come out with like a novelization afterwards. Do you know? Yeah. Do you know if that ever happened with Jurassic Park?
There's a children's novelization of Jurassic Park that I feel like I had it when I was a kid, and then something happened, like yard sale or something. But that might be a false memory. But I want it because it has a scene. So in the book, when the sick Triceratops in the movie.
Yeah.
Sure, you're already aware, you've read the book, but in the book, it's a Stegosaurus.
Yes.
And it was, I guess, probably originally being planned to be a Stegosaurus in the movie. So, like, when the novelization was written, because those are usually written before the movies are finished and going off, like, the first part of the script, they had it as a Stegosaurus. And so it's the plot of the movie, but with a Stegosaurus. And there's, like, an illustration that shows it, all these characters with a Stegosaurus.
Yeah. So, I do want to go kind of back in time. So, so Jurassic Park, Michael Crichton, as far as I understand the story, he took a lot of ideas from Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World, or at least so it's said. However, having read Sir Arthur Conan's The Lost World, it is terrible.
Is it? Okay.
The only similarities that I have found are that there are dinosaurs, which isn't enough to really consider them based on each other at all.
To my understanding, Steven Spielberg loved The Lost World. After he made Jurassic Park, and by this time I mean he loved the movie The Lost World, the old movie, and he wanted a sequel to Jurassic Park. He was going to make a sequel either way, but he would prefer to do it based on another book by Michael Crichton. Michael Crichton didn't normally write sequels, so he didn't really want to, but he convinced him to, which probably isn't that hard to do when you're Steven Spielberg and you've got Steven Spielberg's checkbook. Exactly. But so he asked him if he could sort of make it like The Lost World so that the movie could sort of serve as both a sequel to Jurassic Park, but also a remake of The Lost World in a certain sense. And so I think the movie The Lost World has a lot more in common with the Arthur Conan Doyle book than the book maybe does. Well, I know that the scene where they go, The Lost World, where they go to they bring the T-Rex to San Diego, is supposed to be an homage to the end of the movie. I haven't read the book of Arthur Conan Doyle.
At the end of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's, they did bring a dinosaur back, but it was a pterodon, just like a small little bird-like one. And it did accidentally get out because he was like, fine, you fuckers don't believe me? You don't believe that dinosaurs exist? what would it take to prove to you? It's like, well, if you had a dinosaur, it's like, you mean like this one? And then it got out and like people like freaking the fuck out and it broke out a window and like, well, that's not good. And that was the end. I was like, well, that was... But that's not even the worst part of the story.
It was a long neck in the old movie. Like a brontosaurus, as they would call them back then.
I'm sure the old movie is probably better than the book, simply because the book is, in a word, racist.
Oh, Arthur Conan Doyle? No.
No, it was a different world. It was a different time. I understand things have changed, but...
No, I'm not gonna... I don't give out passes.
No. I'm saying I understand that there's nothing we can do about it now. The dude's dead, the story is written, but... Yeah, it was... So basically how it happens, the book starts out with the main character, I can't even remember his name because he was just not worth remembering. And he's like a reporter, and he wants to do a story or whatever, and he's talking to this lady that he's interested in. Her name was like Gladys. And she's like, oh, I only date men who go and do heroic things. He's like, well, I do heroic things. He's like, no, I mean real heroic things, like men. And he's like, okay,
hero.
And he's just like, okay, fine, I'll go do something heroic. He's like, well, no, it doesn't count if you do it for me. It's like, you have to just do it to be heroic. He's like, well, fine, I'll do that. It's like, but then you're still doing it for me. It's like, what do you want, woman? And so he goes and somebody tells him about this crazy scientist guy who believes in dinosaurs that are still alive. So he's like, I guess I'll go talk to him. It's like, dude, you don't want to talk to that guy. He's been known to beat the crap out of people who talk to him. So he goes over there and he gets a crap beat out of him. And then, like, I'm not even kidding. That's how it goes. So the police come by and see these guys, sees the guy just beating him up. And he's like, hey, what's going on? And the reporter's like, hey, it's my fault. I talked to him. And then the guy who was beating him was like, oh, wow, that's a first. Let's come in and have a chat. So they do. They go inside and they're talking about dinosaurs. And yeah, it is. It's so... yeah, the dude's like, all right, so here's all this proof about dinosaurs. See this big-ass bone? And the dude's like, yeah, that's probably from, like, an elephant. It's like, don't talk to me about elephants! You see this wing? It's like, what is even going on? After that, it basically goes through a whole bunch of examples of, like, you don't believe in that? Well, how about this? Well, how about this? I don't have a photo, but what about a drawing?
It's like a YouTube conspiracy video, basically.
Yeah. Well, and then, like, at one point, he's like, look at this drawing. He's like, why is there a really tiny man next to that tiny lizard? It's like, oh, you don't understand. Do you see that tree in the background of this picture that I drew? Clearly, it's showing that that's a dinosaur. It's like oh,
what?
Okay. So, he's like, all right, how about this? How about this? I'll just take you there. And so the dude, it's like, okay.
What could go wrong in this scenario? Sure.
And so they go to like this big meeting of like scientists, and they're discussing like evolution. And it's like, evolution is real. No, it's not. It's like, yes, it is. I'll beat you up. It's like, I don't even know why that was included in the story. It's just like out of nowhere. It's like, if any of you don't believe dinosaurs are real, follow me on this journey. And then they shuffle him off towards the plains. Like, the main character, one other guy, was just, like, kind of takes the spot of fuck, I'm terrible with names. John Stamos. No, not John Stamos. That's not his name. Fuck.
We're talking about Jurassic Park characters?
Yes. What? God, that...
Ian Malcolm?
Thank you. Yes. It's kind of the Ian Malcolm character.
Okay.
He doesn't go on talking about weird math things, but it's that kind of...
hasn't been invented yet.
What?
LSD hadn't been invented yet, so yeah, Ian Malcolm he definitely is one of those like acid head mathematicians from the 80s.
It's definitely weird. So anyway, so it's like that kind of character comes along, and so they get on the plane, and the main guy who's trying to convince them is like, nah, I'm not gonna go along with you. You guys take this envelope and don't open it until you get there at this exact point in time. And they're like, okay. So they get on this plane. They're dropped off in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, South America. Like the middle of South America, not next to the Amazon, but next to the Thames, I guess, is what they were trying to describe.
Okay.
Because, like, yeah, clearly people don't live there. The Indians don't count. No white person has been there. And so that land is undiscovered. It's like, first of all, no. But let's continue for the sake of the story. So they go there, and they're just waiting in this Indian village that they're describing, and it comes to the time where they have to open the envelope. They open it up, and it's an empty sheet of paper. And so like, oh, look, he fucked us over. Now we just got to figure out how to get the fuck home. And then like 2 minutes later, he walks in the door. He's like, oh, dang it, you opened the paper too soon. I'm here. And it ggets more ridiculous from then on.
That's so weird.
Eventually, he leads them to this extraordinarily steep cliff. He's like, do you see that really tall cliff? I think it was caused by volcanic action, and it prevented the dinosaurs from leaving. Even though there's literally like pteranodons flying around, it's like they easily could have left. And humans had no problem climbing up and down this cliff face, but dinosaurs, not a chance. It's a little miraculous that dinosaurs have stayed there for that long. So they go up, and the entire time they're talking about their servants that are of certain colors.
That's also a problem that carries over into Jurassic Park. Not to get on too much of a detour, but we all remember Samuel L. Jackson being in the movie. That character was a white guy in the book because the only characters who are black in the book are workers on the island. He actually goes out of his way several times to identify workers as a black worker, which is totally unnecessary. Like, I get why he made the point of saying that a lot of them were Hispanic, as much as that may have also come from a little bit of this weird white racism. But like, it's setting the scene. This is taking place down near Central America.
That part makes sense, you know. Hire the locals.
Like local workforces and like probably underpaying them. Like, that's setting the scenery. But every single time he's like a black crewman, it's like, why did you feel the need to what?
Yeah, so when they first introduced their black friend, the way they introduce him is just terrible. It's like, look at our lovely henchman. He's like a horse. He works like one, and he looks like one. He's about as smart as one. It's like, oh, God. Why? So anyway, they climb up this cliff, and they come to a point where it's like a large ravine, and like, all right, let's just chop down this tree. So they chop it down, they cross, and then one of the Indian guys knocks over the tree, like, fuck you killed my brother. And then the black guy kills both of the other Indians that were there, and it's like, I got him for you guys. It's like, oh my God, just, white people aren't the only intelligent people in the world, first of all. It wasn't good. Now they're trapped on this little island, and they're trying to figure out how to get back. And like an iguanodon comes through and like tears up their shit. And eventually, one of them goes walking off on their own. He's the main character. And it's always safe to walk off on your own in the middle of the night on a dinosaur-infested island, but he's walking on his own, and he stumbles across a camp of like pygmy humans, and he's like, "Oh, look, humans have lived here somehow." It's like, okay then. And then they find another tribe that they call the Ape Men. And the Ape Men are not kind to the pygmy men. It's like, oh my God. It was completely unnecessary to have humans involved at all in this. They could have just left it as a dinosaur full of islands, or an island full of dinosaurs, but...
Yeah, and I don't, like I was saying earlier, like, I don't give out passes for that stuff. Like, if was progressive enough to recognize that like the color of your skin doesn't make you inferior, that like people of different ethnicities are not subhuman. Like if Genghis fucking Khan could recognize that, like I don't this is for people 100 years ago.
Yeah. But yeah, they go through the rest of the dinosaur story. They gather some of the materials. They fight a proxy war between the pygmies and the ape men. And yeah, it's fucking stupid. It was ridiculously stupid and unnecessary. Uh, After that, they go on home, and what do you know? The photographs are destroyed, and all their stuff got lost in a wreck, except for like this one really heavy package that they don't know what's inside, except for the scientist guy who took them on the trip. Uh, so the main character goes back and talks to Gladys. He's like, "Hey Gladys, I went to an island full of dinosaurs," and she's like, "Oh, I'm married. I couldn't give a fuck about you." And he's like, "What?"
Boom, boom, boom.
Well, and then he's like, can I meet the guy? And the guy comes up and he's like, "Hey man, I'm just like some dude who's like, I work taxes." He's like, "You had me go out on a big ass fucking journey where I risk my life to fight fucking dinosaurs, and you're with
women.
Taxman Gary. I don't understand."
Oh my goodness.
And then he leaves. He's like, "Well, I don't know what the fuck to do now." And then it like cuts over to the story that I was telling you earlier about how like he was like, "You don't believe me about dinosaurs? Well, here's a dinosaur, bitches." And then it gets out, and that's the end of the story.
Yeah, sounds great.
It's terrible. Don't read it.
All right, I'll take your advice on that. I kind of want to watch the movie to compare.
I don't know. I didn't even know there was an old one, and I can't imagine it's gonna be great.
Well, I mean, it was one of the like classic hallmarks in cinema, like first time people had seen dinosaurs in a movie, which man, now my brain's going on all these different routes. That's so where do I go first? Do I talk about the Lost? You know what? We can get back to that. Michael Crichton's Lost World, not much better, but because this leads me so naturally to like, I think one of the reasons like Jurassic Park made such an impact on me is like when Jurassic Park came out, it wasn't so much a movie as it was like a experience. Like I remember being like, this is my opportunity to see dinosaurs. And I think like younger generations going to the movies right now might not really understand how that felt in 1993. You can see anything on a movie screen now. Like you watch Marvel, like incredible, the amazing things you see. And when Jurassic Park was first like being advertised and you'd see these commercials and how realistic these dinosaurs looked, as a kid who like loved dinosaurs and looked at all my books about dinosaurs and watched The Land Before Time and stuff, this was like the first, and I had seen pictures of like the old claymation and like Ray Harryhausen animation and stuff of like the Lost World and stuff. This was like, oh my God, this is like buying a ticket to actually see real dinosaurs, and like how excited I was to go to the theater, and then how excited I was to watch the movie again, like knowing that even my mom who didn't like dinosaurs was excited to see this movie. It was like it was a magical experience. Like I genuinely can still feel that feeling of wonderment when I watch the movie. Like it's magical.
Right, yeah. I mean, that movie came out 5 years before I was born, but I definitely, not to make you old, but no, I definitely remember watching it for the first time, and it was just amazing. And I mean, even watching it now, it's so well done, and I always get lost into it, and it makes me just kind of want to dive as far as I can into the world of dinosaurs as we have it now. And I mean, it's amazing to see the effect that that movie had on the paleontology in general. I mean, the amount of stuff we were able to discover after that, simply because all the people who saw this movie were like, damn, I want to do that.
And like the public perception of dinosaurs, like before Jurassic Park, the general image of the T-Rex was standing completely upright with like an alligator belly, slow and lumbering, and
Yeah.
like now like it's almost impossible to separate. When I say T-Rex, what everyone's going to picture is the thing from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Like more brown than green. It's leaned over. It's the way it roar sounds, everything. Like to think that like all those sounds that they used for the dinosaurs didn't exist before Jurassic Park. They made those noises.
Yeah, well, and the way they made those noises was actually really cool. They actually spent money on research and put so much money into it, and all the scientists are just like, fuck yeah. Yeah, we'll support your goddamn movie. Yes, we will.
Right.
Make it good. And it's amazing to see that kind of thing, to know that, you know, they went in and did that kind of detailed research to try to make it as close to realism as we could with what we had.
Right. Another one of my pet peeves, too, is when people heavily criticize Jurassic Park for being unrealistic or unscientific.
Yeah, you have to keep in mind, like, in 1993, that's what we knew.
Well, yeah, and there's just so many, like, at a certain point, it's a good opportunity to talk about science, to be like, hey, see how this happens in Jurassic Park? Well, we actually think that dinosaurs might have been more like this, and like as a good opportunity to like highlight and discuss things. But a lot of times it gets to a point where it's like attacking the movie. Like, first of all, what makes a movie good is not how scientifically it's like criticizing Star Wars because the Death Star exploded and an explosion wouldn't happen in space. I don't care. I want to see the Death Star explode. That makes the movie better because it's an exciting climactic ending to an adventure. It's not a science discourse. Go ahead.
No, it doesn't make it better though. That the exploded Death Star was later found in fairly whole chunks on a planet.
That does not make it better. Skywalker makes anything in any Star Wars movie better at all. Like, excuse me, no, Rise of Skywalker makes every single other Star Wars movie at least twice as good. Walk's movie, like, fuck, man. But like, other things too. Like, there's other little criticisms that would be kind of like, some people say, why would these dinosaurs be chasing these people all around this island when there's like, for example, a big fat triceratops in the next field over? That's a good point until you keep hammering on it. And then it's like, oh, I don't know, maybe because the T-Rex just broke out of the fence and suddenly there's all these little things running around that it doesn't recognize, and it's being annoyed and it's hungry and it's noticed these guys was never able to get at them before. So it makes sense that in that immediate moment it would chase the people with the big bright shiny flares. Or like the raptor. Why are the raptors chasing the people around? Like, because no other dinosaur.
They mentioned that. I do believe they called that out both in the book and the movie. It's like, hey, first of all, they're genetically modified, so we don't know what the fuck they're doing. And two, the raptors were noted as having already accidentally gotten a taste for humans and knowing that they're easy to hunt, and so they were going after the humans because they're easier than the other dinosaurs.
Yes, and because they're intelligent and they're aware that they are being held captive and they resent the people for it. Like, that's all very well established in both the book and the movie. And like,
people are still like, no, forget those details. It's clearly not accurate. Like,
right. The T-Rex encounters are incidental. And if you want to say the T-Rex is sort of stalking them around the island, in a plot conveniency way, sure, I guess you could make that argument, but it's not like Jason, like literally stalking them. It just instantly runs into them, you know?
Well, and then there's the book version where there was the two T-Rexes, the adult and the young one, and that was kind of weird. Like, one time they came across the sleeping T-Rex by the lake, and like, that was... I didn't like that whole scene. It seemed just kind of weird to me. But
it's interesting, yeah. It's... There's some, you can find sketches by Crash McCreary, the guy who helped design a lot of the dinosaurs, drawing wise, drawing out that scene there when they were still like conceptualizing the movie. And it's kind of interesting. Like, it's kind of funny seeing the T-Rex laying down with its head propped up on a rock. Like,
oh man, I kind of want to see if I could find that. Who did you say was it? Crash
McCreary, McCreery. I think his real name is Michael McCreary, but it should come up. And his, oh man, such great, like, art like that he's done series too. Like I advise anyone to like look up some of the pictures. It's so gorgeous. Oh my goodness.
Now, I will say, like, in the more recent movies, I am a little bit disappointed that they didn't try to keep up with the realism. However, they did call themselves out and they're like, hey, man, it's more of a... These are more monsters than dinosaurs. We know that this is not how they look, but that still made me a little sad.
Right, and realism again, like, isn't what makes movies good.
Right.
Like, you know how people are funny and witty in movies? That's because we want to watch something that's engaging, dynamic,
Sure.
and entertaining. If people talked and acted exactly the way they do in real life, it wouldn't be as good. Like,
No, it
it's
would not.
yeah. Here, I'm bringing up a picture in case the audience won't see. See if it comes up.
That being said, oh yeah, that's the one I found. Yeah. So that being said, I still would have preferred if they had done something kind of like, hey, these are the ones that we're doing for like out there because I mean they look cooler. This is what the people actually want to see. But here are some of the ones that we believe, we're working on it. We're trying to get them to actually be closer to realism. That way, because I think the whole dinosaurs having feathers was such a huge thing in media for a while. It would have been nice to see that called out.
Sure,
I get that's not what the movie's about. It's about the dinosaurs and the monster-esque part of it. But I really like the idea of a dinosaur with feathers, and I would have loved to have seen that.
Right. I have a lot of thoughts on the dinosaurs with feathers. Number one, I think it's funny how so many people are like, they think it like makes them less scary. I don't see that. Like, or makes them less cool looking. Picturing a Tyrannosaurus with feathers to me makes it more majestic and gorgeous. And like you have a T-Rex with and without feathers.
Oh man, let me see if I can find a picture of a T-Rex with feathers because I remember seeing one that was just ridiculous.
And then there's as far as like in the movie, like I don't think it's a knock on the movie to say these dinosaurs don't have feathers. There's two ways you can take it. There's either like in the world that Jurassic Park takes place in.
I like that one. If that were a T-Rex, I'd be...
See, that's not how I conceptualize them. But you can picture a T-Rex with feathers that still looks intimidating and badass and majestic and gorgeous.
I mean, geez, have you seen some of the birds that are alive today? Fuck that.
Right? But like either in the world of Jurassic Park, because certain things, like the world the movie takes place in is different from the world of our world. Like, number one, like, does the Crichtonsaurus exist in the world of Jurassic Park? Because it's named after Michael Crichton, the guy that wrote Jurassic Park. So obviously there's little differences.
Well, I mean, that might exist if we ever actually invent dinosaurs. I could see that happening, but like, maybe in the world of Jurassic Park, dinosaurs didn't have feathers. No. Like, that's just entirely possible that's in this world, that's the way it happens. No. Well, in the recent movies, they did actually call it out. They're like, yeah, we know that dinosaurs are supposed to have feathers, but we are running more of a monster park. Like, that was actually, like, one of the quotes.
Right. The other thing is, like, like, they used a lot of reptile and amphibian DNA, and, like, they wanted to engineer what people expected to see. And so, like, I also think... I'm a big fan of like more scientific realism with like dinosaurs and stuff, and I'm definitely down to see more movies that portray them in a more scientific manner. Yeah. But I also love the pulp. Oh my god, a cardinal! There's like so much wildlife outside my window. I also love the
a lot of trees.
I love like the pulp, vintage pulp like. Dinosaur thing. I would love to see another movie where humans and dinosaurs, like cavemen and dinosaurs, live alongside. I don't care that didn't really happen. You know what I love about the Pirates of the Caribbean movies? I don't know, but it's not like the realistic portrayal of what it's like to be a pirate. It's the high adventure on the high seas. Like,
I was actually just talking to someone earlier today about. So I was playing around in Minecraft. And I dove into like a lake and there was a dolphin in it and I was in a Discord chat and I was just like, oh man, you know what I love about Minecraft? The realism. A dolphin in a lake, beautiful. looking around, and the mountains are just kind of like very sharp and not actually anywhere near what a mountain looks like. But it's the realism, man.
Right. Whatever. I don't play Minecraft, so I can't necessarily relate, but I'm sure whatever it is about Minecraft that attracts you to it isn't
Yeah.
necessarily the realism of it. Like, yeah.
Oh, come on. Here, let me see if I can find the picture of that. I took a picture of the dolphin in the lake. I was like, that looks close enough to realism, right? Lakes that have no access to the ocean and are probably freshwater? Yeah, maybe. I'm no doctor or dentist, or I don't know what I'm trying to say. These are words. I'm no dolphinologist here, but
Marine biologist.
that would be a word, yes. Oh man, how do I do this? Yeah, there we go. It's just like a dolphin in the middle of a lake. It's like, I don't know about that.
If anyone is looking for if you like behind the scenes stuff and you're a big Jurassic Park fan, I think this is one of the greatest, and I keep making these greatest of all time claims and saying that they're separated from my feelings. Genuinely, this is one of the greatest making of books of all time. It's pretty unanimously agreed upon in the community. Like, it is fucking incredible. The back of it has actual original storyboards.
Ooh, that'd be really cool.
Fucking so cool, and so much like concept art, like the Crash McCreary stuff I was just talking about. So many behind the scenes shots at like them creating the dinosaurs. Like, oh, it's just fucking incredible. It's such a great. There's some Crash McCreary art, like just so good. Look at those cute little baby raptors.
Yeah. Me too. So I was saying, like in the beginning of this video, how it was going to relate to Pokemon. So. And since we're already partially on the topic of video games here, have you played Ark Survival Evolved?
No. I was curious.
You need to, first of all. If you like anything about dinosaurs, you need to. It was, hands down, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I have to play this. You start off on an island. You're just like practically a caveman. And there are dinosaurs all around you, and it is amazing, first of all. Getting to see like even the little compies running around is just like, oh my god, that is adorable. And you can tame them and ride the like Tyrannosaurus, that's not a word, Stegosauruses and things like that, and Triceratops, and you can name them and like start building a little home, and it's really well done. That being said, it's not well optimized, so if you don't have a good computer, you're probably not going to be able to do a whole lot. But there's a mod for it that you could get Pokemon in there as well, and it was awesome. I had like compies running around and a Blastoise coming up out of nowhere, and then oh man, it was great. And then I had a T-Rex fighting a Charizard over in the distance. I was like, god damn, this is amazing. I wish I could have had one or the other, not both, but it was cool either way.
There's a game mod, whatever you'd call it, like coming out too. They released the initial version like a year ago or so called Jurassic Life, and it's like made from the Half-Life 3 engine, I think. And these people meticulously like remade Jurassic Park, like Isla Nublar, using as many shots from the movie, as many like bits of supplementary material as they could to try to like map out and actually make a copy of the island, which is something that I've wanted for ages, is to just be able to walk around to the park. The problem was there was no dinosaurs, because like this was like a programmer making it in his spare time, and he's like, I don't have time to make thick dinosaur models. But they just released the trailer, and they're releasing like I think a finished version of it soon that does include dinosaurs. I'm telling you though, like just a year ago when I like loaded this up on my computer and I just kicked back and for hours just walked around the park, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm coming up to the T-Rex enclosure. Like it's just like the movie, and I'm walking through, and I always like, that's one of the things I love watching the movies, like one of the joyous ways. There's many different ways I watch Jurassic Park. Every time I watch it from a different perspective, and one of the perspectives is I love thinking like, what's going on just outside the borders of the lens, like to go behind the visitor center and be like, so this is where that black crewman that Michael Crichton mentioned comes to like smoke cigarettes on his work break, like obviously I'm being facetious.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to. But like this is where like just the general employees go take their cigarette breaks or their lunch breaks, and like here's the actual scenery that the people saw when they were approaching the T-Rex enclosure, and like it's just like so fucking cool, so cool.
I want to see if I can get this open, but like this is some of like the actual in-game, it's like you get to actually be with the dinosaurs, and it is multiplayer too, and it is awesome. I think you would love it. I don't know if you've got PC or console or what, but it's on PC and console, so.
All right, I could see if my computer would support it. I don't do a lot of gaming, so I'm not sure.
Well, even if you just like walk around in creative mode and look at things, it's still really cool. Because I think they definitely were inspired by Jurassic Park when they were designing it. Because like the first,
not be
exactly like the starting island is very. It makes me feel like as if it is Isla Nublar, just without any of the science stuff happening. It's just you there and dinosaurs. They did try to input their own story, but I don't really like it very much. It gets weird and alien and techie, and I wanted it for the dinosaurs, and that's it.
Yeah, it's funny too, because sometimes I've had people before, they'll be like, well, I know you're obsessed with dinosaurs. I'm like, well, I like dinosaurs. I'm obsessed with Jurassic Park, specifically.
Gotcha.
But no, I do. I love dinosaurs. But yeah, the obsession specifically with Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I think I like dinosaurs for like the same reason I like Pokemon. It's just the idea of these fantastical creatures. Even though dinosaurs are much closer to reality, they're still far off enough away that it's kind of the same to me.
Right.
I'll probably never see a real dinosaur in my life.
There's an element of like fantastical to them for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I did see a 2-scale animatronic T-Rex once when I was like 14, and it was huge. It was scary, and it could move very fast.
Yeah, they did a big exhibit with a bunch of like dinosaur animatronics in my hometown a couple years ago that I went to see. It was pretty cool. Never as cool as you want them to be. I don't know. It's
as a kid, you kind of forget that things aren't that cool, and you're just like, holy shit, it's a dinosaur. It's a nice feeling when you're a kid.
Right.
Things are just so much simpler.
Oh wait, hold on.
I think I was in Waldrug, South Dakota.
Brain fart. Hold on a minute ago. You said my brain was just going on I don't know. Forget it. A million more things we can talk about still. Yeah. There's some point I was about to make or get into, but we still could talk about, well, you haven't read The Lost World by Michael Crichton yet.
Yes, I'd like to hear what your thoughts were of it, because from what you've said so far, it's not good.
It's fucking terrible. Now, there's a lot of criticisms to be made of Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton, which I've read it like 100 times, and I've recognized, especially more as I get older in more recent times, that I've been blind to a lot of the problems with it because of my love for it, and because the experience of reading it is always so magical for me for two reasons. Number one, because it is well written in a lot of ways, and number two, my own personal associations with Jurassic Park. Yeah. But The Lost World, fucking terrible, abysmal. There's one good scene and one kind of good scene. Other than that, it's fucking horrendous. And like in Jurassic Park, you know how Ian Malcolm goes on these like 3-page rants sometimes, and he gets interrupted in ways that feel natural to the narrative. Unless you've read it 100 times, you might not even notice that it's happening. That they've constructed a narrative that cuts him off, so that we can temper and pace the revelations to the audience. Because you can't have him explain everything right away. You want people to learn things at a certain point in the book. In The Lost World, it's like he can't be troubled to craft the narrative around it. So Ian Malcolm is like giving these speeches, and he's like, but you'll soon see why what I'm saying, and like he'll like deliberately like be like, but watch, wait and see, and it's like, oh my god, it's being like lectured about evolution by a conservative doctor
Yeah.
named Michael Crichton for every like it's so and like the dinosaurs, there's no sense of wonder to the dinosaurs. Like you already like just being there, you feel like all the characters feel like they've already seen it all, and you feel like you've already seen it all. It's just like there's no, it's bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. The one scene that I like. Well, I guess I won't spoil anything for you if you're gonna read it. I won't spoil the part of the book for you. Okay. There is a scene where they're at like a resort area of the island, and so there's a tennis court, and there's two Carnotauruses, which are the dinosaurs that have like the slight little horns on their head. You can see them in the newest movie. And in this book, they've got the ability to do camouflage like a chameleon, which is a little gimmicky, but the scene was played so well where the way they like were able to see these creatures because it was nighttime was they would flash the flashlight on and then off and then on and then off, so that the animals skin like color changing ability wasn't able to keep up, and they were able to like spot them moving because of the lag and like it's changing. And it was like a really tensely done, and it's a tennis court, so they're like skin is trying to match the pattern of the tennis net, which is an imperfect pattern for like an animal to try to match, and like it was just really cool. That scene with like the tension and the inventive, like it almost seemed like he was doing something that would have been cool for Steven Spielberg to do cinematically. And then I remember being a kid and like, oh, I can't wait to see that scene in the movie. And of course, it's not in the movie. Leading up to the release of the movie, there was a Jurassic Park cereal that came out, and one of the marshmallows was Chameleon T-Rex. So I was like, oh, this is proof they're going to be in the movie, and they weren't.
Hey, you finally got your chameleon stuff in the new one.
Right. Which, again, though, wasn't done as nearly as well. Like,
no, it was not done well.
No.
One criticism of the Jurassic Park book, though, in comparison to the movie, I hate the little girl in the book. Fucking hate her. Every 5 minutes, like, I'm hungry. You've got a fucking T-Rex chasing you. Shut the fuck up.
Which is like, on one level, that's okay to have.
She's a kid. That's how they react to things, but it's like, you literally just watched your brother get picked up and thrown off a cliff by a T-Rex, and you're complaining that you're hungry? Shut the fuck up.
Right. I don't mind it. I think it's a good character trait when Michael Crichton's not leaning into it too hard. Like, sometimes...
If it hadn't been like every few minutes, like I was listening to the audiobook so for me it's minutes, not pages, but you know, it's...
Oh, the audiobook is terrible.
I was at work.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hate, like, it starts off, there's the quote that the movie, which is like, lizards are abhorrent, cold creatures or something, like, it's like... some quote by some naturalist about like lizards, and when God created them, they were, but like, and it's a really good haunting quote to like start this book, which really like one of the cool aspects of the book is it feels more like a horror movie, which I'm glad that the doesn't follow this because it makes it more accessible and like one of the greatest accomplishments in cinema. But the book, you really feel like you're witness to a grisly animal attack and on this like isolated, mysterious and scary island. And but like the like audiobook starts off and the guy reading it's just like, lizards are abhorrent in their cold nature, and it's just like, whoa, can you like slow down, Casey Kasem, because you're killing the tone. Like,
I think we may have had different audiobooks.
Good,
because I think mine was a 1-to-1 read. Because it was nothing like that.
Well, I think it was the same words, but it was just the way he was talking didn't set up the tone for a scary.
I do feel like whoever was reading the audiobook for Arthur Conan Doyle's was spot on with how I would anticipate it being read. It was just this very old white man. And it was...
I'm just picturing him doing horrible racist caricatures every time he speaks as the...
He did. It was...
Like, oh, God.
Yeah, it was bad. It's just like... And here we are on the island of Isla Nublar. It's like, oh, God. Just... I was listening to it at like 3 times speed, so it's... trying to listen to an old man speaking slowly at 3 times speed. It's just so weird. I eventually got through it. It's much shorter than Jurassic Park, luckily. It was only maybe 5 hours compared to, like, I think almost 20.
Right. I mean, novels, I think, like that, yeah, like it's kind of a pulp novel. It was, like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wrote, like, entertainment. Like, he wrote pulp. Like, I'm not trying to use that as, like, a bad thing, but, like, and Jurassic Park... Well, Michael Crichton also wrote a lot of pulp. Like, he started as a pulp action adventure novelist, but Jurassic Park's more of a big, fully fleshed out novel. I feel like another criticism is I feel like you can tell the point in the book when he learned, because it had been optioned as a movie before it was even finished being written. So it's a point when he realized he was going to be selling this as a movie. You can, like, see a shift in the writing. And at a certain point, it seems like he's trying to pad it out, trying to add cool scenes for the movie. And also things like... So, weirdly enough, my favorite character in the book is the lawyer, Gennaro. He's an entirely different character. And it also feels a little like that's coming from Michael Crichton's rich upper class white. Like, I hate too that so many people are gonna hear this and be like, "Oh, you dumb SJW cuck soy boy, you gotta like." Michael Crichton's not racist. Okay, I'm not saying he's racist. Like, you know what? If you just can't be critical of things that you're a fan of, then just don't bother leaving a comment. But, like, sorry, where was I going? Oh, the lawyer. He starts off. The lawyer is this. Throughout the whole book, the lawyer is like a really stand-up. He does a lot. He's not the same character. He's young. He's fit. He's not the same person you see in the movie, which Steven Spielberg made like a Weasley lawyer type, you know. And I think Michael Crichton realized, either because Spielberg told him or because he was thinking about like the nature of Hollywood films, and like the lawyer in a movie in the 90s is not going to be like the big like hero. So it's like... Throughout the book, like, there's a point even where, like, Muldoon's going out to hunt the T-Rex, and he's like, anyone want to come with me? And he asks, like, Gennaro, you want to come live dangerously again? Because there was a point where he helped him with something because he kind of had to. And he's like, no, man, I can't do this. And he's like, all right. And he's leaving, and Gennaro, the lawyer, gets up, and he's coming with him. And he's like, I thought you said you weren't going to come with me. And he's like, fuck it, man, let's do this. And he's just kind of like, you know, we got to do this, so let's go. And like he does what, like, he goes out of his way to help, and like to help hunt the fucking T-Rex down. That's a big fucking thing to volunteer to help do. And then at the end of the book, there's this part where they've got to go count all the eggs in the island, eggshells, and count them all, so they can determine how many dinosaurs may have gotten off the island, which is a ridiculous fool's errand.
It was
like,
stupid.
Noble, babe, not your responsibility. And like, yeah, I'm sorry, not to like cut you off, but it's like Gennaro is kind of like, yo, this ain't my responsibility. I want to get the fuck off this island. This is... And Grant like grabs him and slams him against the wall, and he's like, listen, pal, you fucking funded this operation, and you've been a weasel this whole time, and now you're gonna man up and do what you need to do to take response. And I'm like, yo, bro, just because you got stuck in the middle of the island with the kids and you helped save the kids' lives doesn't, like, maybe you weren't here through all this, but he actually was like... And it's like he suddenly... But it's not just Grant. It's like the narrative switches and decides that this lawyer has been a Weasley character the whole book suddenly when he hasn't. Like, it's weird.
I thought it was just weird and out of the blue, because he seemed like, you know, at least close to the end of the book, he was starting to become more human. He was like, yeah, I get, you know... I've already done all this crazy shit. May as well continue. And, like, at the actual end, when they're doing this stupid Easter egg, I mean, egg, you know, it's like, oh, but look, it's a hole. It's deep. I'm afraid. It's like, if you don't get in that hole, I'm just gonna kill you myself. You're like, oh, okay, I guess I have to. It's like, that's not
unbelievable.
And then they go down this hole and they're like in a cave, and they're just like, oh, look at all these velociraptors, and the velociraptors just don't notice shit. They didn't notice three people falling in a hole except for the babies, and they try to explain it away, but they did it terribly. And
Right.
then
How about like Grant? How about you say, "Hey Hammond, are there any employees that maybe abandoned the island when the storm started coming that we could have come back to the island with guns and like whatever like equipment that you have, and they do the search? You know, I know Muldoon's drunk at this point in the book, so we can't send him. Like, how about this isn't my responsibility? I've done enough, and I also want to get the fuck off this island. The lawyer's
Yeah.
not being a fuck off this island and not want to go look for fucking eggshells to determine whether more dinosaurs have got off the island. What the fuck?"
And also, I feel like it was completely unnecessary to check the eggs because it was very clear that they had already gotten off that. You're down in that cave and you're like, oh, look at this. They know the ship is coming. How strange is that?
And what a weird, pedantic. We're going to search this entire island for egg fragments? What?
I know. It's just like, no, you're going to blow up the fucking island and you're going to hope that none of the dinosaurs got off. That's the best you can do. Because what are you going to do with the information? Like, yeah, we think exactly 5 dinosaurs got off. No idea where they are. It's like, what?
Right. It's a good thing there's no way that we might have missed eggs, you know, in like the foliage, in this like in the thick, dangerous foliage that you've said is poisonous to humans and was a bad move to plant here, so we can't go digging through it. You know, it's a good thing we know everything about dinosaur behavior, so it's not possible that some of these dinosaurs might bury their eggshells to hide from predators because they don't want predators to know that they live around there, like a lot of real world animals do. Like, what a ridiculous fucking point in the book.
Yeah. Okay. If you just forget about that part of the book, the rest of it's pretty good.
Right. There's definitely other problems in the book.
Yeah.
But no, it is still an enjoyable read, and I definitely recommend reading it. And if you can't handle criticism of it, like people don't understand that, like, yo, I love Jurassic Park so much that if I wasn't able to criticize it, I'd run out of things to talk about because I've been talking about it for 30 years. Like, I can criticize something and still love it, you know. And I can also praise things about the book. I can criticize aspects of the movie. I think when I do criticize the movie, it just serves to illustrate how perfect the movie is. Like, the acting for the first like third of the movie is kind of wooden and not that convincing, but the movie is so well constructed that you don't notice, which makes it a well-made movie. It's like if you don't see the strings, then the movie did a good job of hiding the strings from you. So like, I think that's like it's a testament to the movie's strength that you don't notice that the performances and like the dialogue in the beginning of the movie is a little wooden, and so some of the actors struggle a little bit with it. Like Sir Richard Attenborough does a great job of like selling every fucking word that comes out of his mouth, and so does Jeff Goldblum. Sam Neill and Laura Dern seem a little wooden at certain points, and it's not a knock on them. Like, they're given wooden dialogue, and like you don't have to be the most incredible actor in the world. Like, but like the movie's just so well made that you don't even notice, you know, because there's not one part of that movie that's boring.
No, definitely not. I mean, it's you know, I can't wait for VR movies to become a better thing because man, how fucking cool would that be?
To just be there and be able to look around at like what's on the outsides of the lens. Like, oh my God, to be able to pause the movie and look around at Dennis Nedry's desk and just like, you know, I'll explore the little nooks and crannies.
Oh, man. That's another downside to the book. Not as prevalent as the movie, but in the book, the tech is just terrible.
You know,
like they're trying to describe a touchscreen, but they're describing it as if there's like IR sensors coming out of the sides.
Yeah.
Like, no.
I do enjoy, like, I don't think the book is boring either. Even though there's a lot of tech and science speak, I actually enjoy a lot of that.
Absolutely,
but it's really funny and dated. There's a point where the narrative has to explain, now not a character to another character, but the narrative, because assuming that the reader is not going to know, has to explain what a CD-ROM is and has to explain that CD stands for compact disc, which is entirely reasonable. This was written in the 80s. But so funny to look back and to imagine, like, nowadays it's come so far that it's probably circled back around and they have to explain what a CD is again. Like it reached a point where it's like, come on, dude, you don't have to explain to anyone what a CD is. And now it's like, okay, wait, we've all forgotten again. What's a CD?
Yeah, I don't have anything that can play CDs.
Right? Right?
I
So
mean, I've
weird.
got CDs on my desk, but that's like saying I've got a record.
And like the state of the art technology that like there's an interactive program, like you can interact with this program on the computer.
Whoa! Yeah.
Wow. Wowee.
Oh man, what ridiculous times.
Yeah, it's great. And actually that's something so like a lot of fans ask for like a if you're ever going to do a remake of Jurassic Park to make it follow the book. And I'm like, all right, the movie did follow the book. So
Yeah.
like to imply that the movie didn't follow the book close enough is a mistake. I think the movie followed the book fine. But what I think would give them what they want, because sometimes people they don't know. They know what they like, but they don't know why they like what they like because they're not writers and creators themselves, which isn't an attack. Like when
Yeah.
you are a creator, you're able to see behind the scenes and how things work. It's like you may know why you may know that you like a certain house, but if you're an architect, you may know why people like certain things and why certain things make people feel a certain way. But like
Yeah.
so what I think you would want to do if you're doing a remake is focus on aspects of the book that didn't get expressed in it and maybe highlight those aspects more. So things like make it more horror toned. I would actually go ahead. We were talking about how this book is sort of set in the 80s, and that's one fun way to read it and experience it is to not. A lot of times when you remake something, you want to update it for the modern time. Jurassic Park
Yeah.
still feels like it's in the modern time. What I would rather do is go the opposite direction and make it feel more like a period piece that takes place in the 80s when the fact that they had 4 computers on this island made investors or made the IRS rather want to investigate them because they're like, you can afford 4 computers? Motherfucker, I got 4 computers in this house. Like that doesn't mean shit. That are more powerful than theirs.
I've got more than that on my desk right now.
Right. But to make it feel like this gritty grindhouse movie almost that takes place on this remote isolated island that's blanketed in fog in the 80s, it like increases that isolation horror feeling. And like the reason it's called Isla Nublar is because that means cloud island. It was always blanketed in a dense layer of fog, so you could barely see 20 feet ahead of yourself at a lot of times in the novel. And I think that lends to a lot of the horror feeling of the novel is that you can see these dinosaurs. What you can't see what's right around the corner. And
I mean, I remember when they were first getting shown their rooms and they were like, why are there like bars on the windows? I don't remember that. It's like, oh, wow, that's some sketchy stuff.
Right,
Right
and
off the bat.
that tense feeling of like this is a dangerous area and I don't quite know why. It's a mystery. There's a mystery to the danger of this area and like you are on this island and I love isolated horror, like isolation horror. Like Alien is the greatest horror film of all time. Like so great and like get some of that like feeling in there. Like I think that would be a really cool move.
Now, personally, what I would love to see is kind of a remake of hear me out here, The Lost World, but done in less racist ways and less terrible ways. Get rid of all the weird race wars. Just done like have a group of explorers going out like in the 16, 17, 1800s and finding this lost world full of dinosaurs. That would have been great. Honestly, that would be phenomenal. I would love to see that. Especially like early exploring, humans, and finding this lost world. Because obviously, like nowadays, we know too much about the world. We can't just find a lost world anymore. It's not like which is why it's so hard to do something like that in modern times. Is because someone would find out easily. If we try to buy an island in the middle of nowhere and ship very expensive computers, we're gonna know about it. It's not just gonna be up and gone.
Which is kind of cool, like the way that they approached it in Michael Crichton's The Lost World, because it was supposed to be sort of like a remake of that while also serving as a sequel to Jurassic Park, is that there's rumors of this island with dinosaurs on it. And it's because like this company secretly biologically engineered them and they have this engineering island, site B, and like, but the people who want to set out to set up this expedition to the island don't know that. So they think like this is some wonderful, fantastical lost world where evolution was contained like within this island, you know, and but it's not. It's a place where like it's an interesting angle to take it from.
No. It's definitely, I mean, there's not a whole lot they could do to make it worse from what it originally was, so...
And yeah, you know, my mind is blown that there isn't more dinosaur cinema. It's like Star Wars does good, everyone jumps on the sci-fi epic train in Hollywood. Fucking Transformers does good, everyone jumps on rebooting properties from the 80s. Marvel does good, everyone jumps on comic book properties and superheroes. Jurassic World comes out and like shatters records because it was right before Force Awakens shattered its record. Fucking nobody starts making dinosaur movies. Why?
They're really hard to make. There's a lot of money that goes into it, and there's not actually a whole lot of dinosaur stories out there. And it's particularly, I think it comes with, if you ever listen to the audiobook for Jurassic Park, there's like a 2-minute section right at the end where it's just like listing like all the things you can never do with this particular book. Is like, well, that's probably why there's no dinosaur movies, you know?
Well, I don't know. It's just, to me, Hollywood never takes logistics into account when they bankroll these projects. Yeah. They're not like, oh, a Transformers cinematic universe? That doesn't make sense. That's not something we can make happen well. They just go for it. They just greenlight it. They're like, it made money before, so it'll make money now. R-rated superheroes movies, it made money before, so it'll make money now. Like, so it's weird that they weren't just like, I don't want to hear your logistics. A dinosaur movie just made a bunch of money. I want to bankroll some more dinosaur movies.
Yeah,
you know?
I think the downside is simply that Jurassic Park has a monopoly on dinosaurs. You know, Transformers, yeah, they've kind of got the thing on robots too, and there's downsides to that. Obviously, if you've ever seen any of the recent ones.
Right.
But with superhero movies, that is such a wide array of different companies that are, granted, mostly in communications with each other nowadays. Dinosaurs are kind of trapped. I mean, there's just not a whole lot out there. I would love to see somebody write something new and actually get it done, but I feel like there's got to be a lot of legal catches in the way because of Jurassic Park.
I mean, you can't sue someone for using dinosaurs, but no, I mean,
nowadays, if you were to try to base it on, you know, the lizard forms of dinosaurs as we see them in the movies, you could probably face a lawsuit. Whereas if you try to make them more realistic, you might be able to get away with it.
Why would you face a lawsuit for making them more lizard-like?
I feel like the lizard-like ones are now, since they're no longer considered scientifically accurate, they can now probably be copyrighted in some way, at least as far as I would assume.
I don't think so. I mean, that was a perception that was like around in so many forms of media for hundreds of years, for like 100 years, right? About 100 years or so. I think I would love to see more like that pulpy, trashy cinema, like of dinosaurs. Like in the 70s, there were a lot of movies with like cave people and dinosaurs. Like, let's get one of those movies in modern time, like, and make it just like a pulpy action adventure. Don't try too hard to be a good movie. Just make it a fun dinosaur adventure. Like, make bad dinosaur movies. I don't care. I just want to see more dinosaurs.
Yeah, I would love to see more dinosaurs. I feel like they could do some really cool shit. It's just sad that they don't.
You know what I would fucking love would be, did you ever read Dinotopia growing up?
Never even heard of it.
Dude, do a Google image search for Dinotopia and look at some of this incredible, gorgeous fucking art. This book was about, it was very Arthur Conan Doyle-esque. Like, these shipwrecked people found this island where humanity and dinosaurs continued to coexist. Sequestered off from the rest of the world, and it's like a society where they live in harmony together. Like, dinosaurs are cultured creatures, and the art, it's just mainly for the art, is fucking beautiful. And Sci-Fi Channel did like a horrible adaptation of it with terrible CG effects, terrible writing, terrible performances, everything terrible. But I would love to see an actual big budget Hollywood adaptation of Dinotopia. It's different enough from Jurassic Park that it would have its own identity. It's got a good oh, it's fucking gorgeous. It's so good.
That would be kind of interesting to see.
It really would.
I feel like it would end up being like a kids movie though. Like a lot less Jurassic Park and a lot more, what is it called? Land Before Time.
Make it all ages. That could be a great all ages adventure, you know?
Yeah.
Really
Sounds like you've got a lot of writing ahead of you if you plan on getting this done. Well, I should probably leave this here. I feel like this video is probably getting pretty long.
Hey, I had a blast though. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and I'm sure we'll have more topics in the future we can talk about. And I look forward to going back on Silph Radio as well. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm always down to talk about Pokemon. I'm always down to talk about Jurassic Park. If any of the listeners want to check it out, I started a Jurassic Park conversation, and I've only done one video, but now with this Corona quarantine bullshit, I'm hoping I can start making more videos. It's called The Last Word Jurassic Park, sort of like The Lost World Jurassic Park, but The Last Word Jurassic Park. And my idea is it's about me and my opinions on the franchise, trying to get the last word in there, you know?
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Check out the Patreon down below. I'll put his one there too. That was words. I'll put his there down. Fine. I'll put his down there too. Yeah. You guys have a good one.
Thanks.